Here we go. Welcome to the start of a new anime review series. This is an Adventurers Daily Grind at 29. Anime Review, Episode 1. We're here discussing the first two episodes of this series. Yeah, it's a series that came out, I think this came out just this year. Yeah, this is quite interesting for this one. So, our main character is Hajime. And, by the way, also, this is the 22nd anime I checked out this year. Second anime I come across with the main character named Hajime. Last one being, of all shows, Afria. Yep. Afria. Yeah. Though that was an isekai, this is a regular standard adventure, where apparently we see in the flashback that he grew up in the slums, and he felt like a wolf when he was like a kid, fighting with basically a lead pipe. Yes, a lead pipe, which he managed to use the pipe to whack this creature to death, which he successfully did that. And then we see over time he grew tall, became a successful adventurer. They also say what rank he is, just that he's a well-respected adventurer in this small village. And after saying hi to local granny, which basically is previously get medicine, and sees like a guy he calls Grandpa, who's like an old man. And of course, he goes to the dungeon, the local dungeon they have there, where he finds the door to the dungeon is open for some reason. He goes inside and comes across a slime about to consume a little girl named Riri. And wow, that's another name, basically. I have her before. In Dr. Stone. And I think that was also seen I think that was also used in the previous anime I just watched, which is So in the World Second Time, where, by the way, we later find out this girl's actually a succubus. Yeah, she's a succubus. How the heck she's a succubus? We'll get to that later. So, then we see that, then we bring it to the local adventure guild. By the way, I thought initially that the main character himself was voiced by Aaron Desmond, because he sounds very similar to him. But no, this is a guy by the name of Sean Lethamaru, and Riri is voiced by Nia Kalesti, and Mia with basically local elf head. The elf who runs the Adventurers Guild, which this is probably the first time I could think of that we had not an elf heading Adventurers Guild, but a female elf that I could think of, yes. And she's voiced by Abigail Bythe, which I have seen some stuff with her in it. You're probably thinking, how many anime come across with her in it? Well, the last anime I came across with her was actually Jack of All Trades, Party of None. Yeah, that was the last special anime that I came across. Of course, she's also beginning at the end. Yeah, of course, these fall anime I have seen her in. Let me get the thing here. Here we go. So, basically, it's been Case Closed, Goblin Slayer, Dr. Stone, Spirit Chronicles, Chainsaw Man, I'm the Villainous, I'm Taming the Final Boss, I've been killing since 300 years, max level. My unique skill makes you OP level 1, the Apothecary Diaries, the Aristocrats of Adventure, the Reincarnation Strongest Actress in the World, NRT's Dilemma, How I Love You Upright, Black Butler, Friday Your Frame, I was reincarnated Seven Prince, I couldn't affect my magic ability. They want the adventurer, even given worthless Aristocrats, I'm actually strongest. Beginning at the end, Jack of all trades, and an Adventures Daily ran at 29. Yeah, you probably think only one is set in the real world, and one is basically one just wrapped up, and most everything else is either a fantasy or an isekai, though there's also Chainsaw Man as well. Yeah, and she's voice of an elf here. So, of course, the research on her. Of course, this is where we find out she's a succubus after he spends now with it. No, he doesn't do anything basically to where they just share a bed together. And he wakes up and she's got a big chest. He notes that several times. So, then of course, basically he talks to the waitress about it, who he knows pretty well, which I think that he may have a thing for her. It's not very clear. And then, of course, basically, Olivia's research found out she's a succubus. And then, of course, when he finds out she's a succubus, she's like, why don't you just verify she's a succubus? He's like, oh, I know of a succubus. And her name is Veronica. And she's voiced by Morgan Garrett. Yep, Morgan Garrett. And she's a very, very voluptuous woman, very beautiful woman. She's got a tattoo on one of her breasts. And does verify that Riri is a succubus, though she can change size. And is it possible that Riri has a thing for Hajime? It's not very clear. Not also not clear exactly where her parents are. They mentioned, she's an orphan. And of course, she's even being taught by Hajime be avenged by killing a slime. Though, and of course, try to take up like a wolf. Though she ends up getting smacked in the head for it. Yeah, he likes smacking her in the head. Yeah, he likes doing that. Because she's been. Of course, he doesn't punch her anyway. He just bops her in the head just for being an idiot. He doesn't slap her. No, he doesn't slap her. He doesn't punch her. He just bops her in the head for being an idiot. You probably think it's being abusive to her? Not really. Just punching a child. It just basically just. It's not like it just bop in the head. But that's being an idiot. Though they later take Veronica on an adventure in the dungeon, which then she and Veronica get sent down to like the 10th floor. Of course, you also meet basically a guy with them who's only referred to as Swine, and he's a male elf. Yeah. And basically, he's Veronica's chair because he's a misogynist. And I saw this, I'm like, this is the second anime row I've seen this in. Like, does any, like, in a row, but overall, this is the third anime row I've seen this in. Where you have a character being used as someone else's chair. I mean, this happened over in Overlord. This happened. A couple characters got a chance to be sat on by the main character, and in the case of this one, and then of course the last anime, this also happened too, and of course, well, because one of the characters is a misogynist, and then of course basically they decided to, let's just. I'm not sure who thinks this is a good idea to do, to have characters being treated like, this is something I'm not really a big fan of. You know, characters used as chairs. It just, even if the character likes it, it just looks creepy. Yeah. Especially if a girl does. It's worse if a girl does. A guy, depends on who sits on them. But this is something basically, it's like, it's not exactly something that I'm a fan of. I just kind of wish they would. You probably think like, is it something that you would like to stop being seen anime? Yes, I would love for this to be stopped being used anime, but lucky enough doesn't happen very much at all. It's a minor thing, so. They go to a dungeon, of course, he gets lost, he gets surrounded by snakes, so he's later found off screen. And then, of course, basically, they said eat. They also set up this little rules like, don't work, you don't eat. Now, that, I don't have a problem with that, basically, because basically that, they use also Alice Bookworm. That's a fine thing to motivate a kid in an anime fashion. Of course, it's also happened with Alice Bookworm. But this is perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. But just the people use as chairs. I'm not really a big fan of that. Especially since also the worst. Actually, I almost forgot. There's actually one anime I did see this in. And this was by far the worst one I saw it in. Eden Zero. Where they even had the female lead almost turning into a piece of furniture. And though in the case of that one, the guy doing it was a freaking scumbag, and what happened to him was rightfully deserved. Ainz did it just to punish people. And Saltair did. Now Saltair can hold up Ainz because she's a freaking vampire. Albedo will probably get crushed by Ainz. And Cocytus got a chance to have Ainz sit on him for reasons. And I think in the case of these other two, I think because the weight is perfectly fine, it just looks weird. But at least this time it's not the main character making a female become a chair for them. Yeah. But probably see Veronica at this point forward. I don't mind the character. At one point, they have these two hide in a treasure chest while basically Ruby drops her tiny sword that she has. And then, of course, basically, Hajime finds the wolf, kills the wolf. And overall, very interesting episodes. It's just that the one aspect I don't like is the guy being used as a chair. That's the only thing I don't like with these episodes. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'm probably going to be going soon, so I'm probably going to say next video is probably for later, okay? See you next video.